From the Bishop of Rome's perspective, what happened next was a total nightmare. The capital of the empire suddenly moved from good old Rome to Istanbul, or, as it was called back then, Constantinople. It was a brand new, planned administrative capital. To give you an analogy, it's kind of like if the capital of the United States suddenly moved from a major existing city like New York or Philadelphia to a freshly built Washington, D.C. And just like that, the Bishop of Rome was basically left high and dry. I mean, things were going great for him. He was well on his way to becoming the center of Christianity, the most popular, top dog bishop out there. But then, Emperor Constantine suddenly decides to move the capital to Istanbul. It completely rained on his parade. Now, this didn't mean the Bishop of Rome's position or the 5 major patriarchates, the main branches, just disappeared. The Bishop of Rome was still around, but right when his influence should have been expanding, moving the capital to Istanbul put the brakes on his momentum. His stock was soaring, and then it just tanked. You know what I mean, right? Like a graph that's shooting up and then suddenly takes a nosedive. After this, under Emperor Constantine, Christianity was officially recognized, and later, under Emperor Theodosius, it became the state religion of the Roman Empire. Okay, you really need to listen up now. Pay close attention. You absolutely cannot forget this next part. I want you to erase every word you have in your head right now. Orthodox, Catholic, Protestant, whatever kind of Christianity you're thinking of, get rid of it. Forget Presbyterian, Methodist, all of it. I want you to imagine pulling out all the synapses in your brain. You need to listen with a completely blank slate.
So, what was Christianity like back in this era? There were no denominations. It was basically the OG version. At that time, there was just one Christianity. That's it. Got it? Okay, listen carefully here. There was only one form of Christianity, no sects. But then the word Catholic appears. It's a word that means universal, all-encompassing, general. They basically rebranded Christianity with this name, Catholic. The idea was that Christianity had now become the default, the universal religion. I mean, at that point, Christianity had become the state religion of the Roman Empire, so it was universal and standard, right? So they started calling Christianity Catholic. Now, do not picture the Pope here. Don't think of anyone like Pope Francis. Empty your mind and just listen. You'll understand later why I'm being so insistent about this. So, what were the bishops in the 5 major regions at the time? They were Catholic bishops. Why? Because Christianity simply changed its name to Catholic. All 5 of these guys were Catholic bishops. Don't say things like Catholic means the Roman Catholic Church. Don't say anything and forget the Pope. Erase it all, clear your mind, and just listen. All you need to remember is this: Christianity's name changed to Catholic. So what happened then? What's the Bishop of Rome's position now? The same guy who was running his mouth about being the top dog of Christianity? Now he's just saying, I'm the top dog of Catholicism. It's the exact same claim. Since Christianity's name changed to Catholic, it means the very same thing. The claim to be the top dog bishop of Christianity just became the claim to be the top dog of Catholicism. All 5 of these guys are equal Catholic bishops. Only the name of the religion changed. But what happens to the Roman Empire later? It splits into the Western and Eastern Roman empires. The sons fought each other and divided it. But the Eastern Empire was already using Constantinople as its capital. And the Eastern Roman Empire had a lot of money at the time. Its foundation was pretty solid. 4 of the 5 main branches of Christianity were located in the Eastern Empire. So what does that mean? It means more Christians were there, more money was there, and the state's foundation and economic power were all concentrated in the East. But the Western Roman Empire doesn't last long and collapses. The Germanic tribes to the north get their butts kicked by the Huns and come pouring down south, completely wrecking the Western Roman Empire. The details aren't important, but what happened to our Bishop of Rome over there? He was once again left high and dry. This was no time for him to be shouting, "I'm the top dog." Everything was being destroyed by the Germanic tribes. He was in no position to do that. Of course, the Germanic tribes crushing the West wasn't just bad news for the Bishop of Rome. If they could destroy the West, it meant they could destroy the East too. So the fall of the West was a pretty nerve-wracking situation for the Eastern Empire as well. But on the other hand, for the Eastern Roman Emperor, it was a golden opportunity.
Let me explain. The Bishop of Rome over in the West was constantly getting too big for his britches. From the Eastern Emperor's point of view, this guy in Rome was getting annoying. The majority of his citizens were already Christian, and it was getting to a point where they might stop listening to the emperor and only listen to the Bishop of Rome. Eventually, the Bishop of Rome could just tell the masses, "My dear flock, you should listen to me more than the emperor, right?" That was a real possibility. So, naturally, the emperor wanted to put him in his place. The emperor wanted to crush the Bishop of Rome, and conveniently, the Germanic tribes came down and crushed the Western Empire for him. So, jackpot. Of course, the Germanic tribes were also eyeing the Eastern Empire, but still, this was a sweet deal. He must have thought, this is my chance. To take down the Bishop of Rome, who had become a thorn in his side among the 5 Christian patriarchs, the Eastern Emperor teamed up with the Archbishop of Istanbul, that is, Constantinople. He made the Archbishop of Constantinople the ecumenical patriarch of the whole Catholic world. He declared, "The Archbishop of Constantinople is now the head of all Christianity, the ecumenical patriarch. That guy in Rome, he's just a regular bishop. The supreme leader of the entire Catholic, i.e. Christian world, is the Archbishop of Constantinople." Why? To completely crush the Bishop of Rome's spirit. It was like he was thinking, this guy keeps popping up like a weed no matter how many times I step on him. I'm going to stomp him out for good this time. That was the emperor's move to break the Bishop of Rome's momentum. Since Christianity was now called Catholic, the new line was, "The title of ecumenical patriarch of the Catholic world now belongs to the Patriarch of Constantinople." That makes the Bishop of Rome just an archbishop. Not this, not that, just a plain old archbishop. Sure, he has some status, but the Archbishop of Constantinople is way more powerful. The ultimate elder of all Christianity worldwide is in Constantinople. That's the narrative the Eastern Roman Emperor and the Archbishop of Constantinople cooked up together. Immediately, the Bishop of Rome threw a fit, shouting, "That's bullshit! Why are you the top dog? I'm the top dog!" and fought like hell. But regardless of his protests, the Western Roman Empire had already collapsed. It had been wrecked by the Germanic tribes, so it didn't matter how much of a scene the Bishop of Rome made. He had no one to back him up, his country was gone, and he was effectively boxed in by the foreign Germanic peoples. It's not like the Germanic tribes were about to start singing his praises. So, the Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantine Empire, continued to flourish on its own while the West remained in ruins. The history of the Roman Empire continued on this path. It seemed like the Bishop of Rome's story was over, and only the Eastern Empire would continue to prosper. But then, Muhammad was born. And Muhammad threw another bucket of cold water on everything. Just when things were going well for the East, the Islamic Empire, starting with Muhammad, began to expand and ended up conquering a huge chunk of the Eastern Roman Empire's territory. 3 of those major Christian centers in the East that I mentioned earlier were all swallowed up by the Umayyad Caliphate. In other words, Islam's influence expanded massively, and what happened to Christian influence? Only 2 centers were left, Rome and Constantinople. That's it. From the Eastern Empire's perspective, the situation was now, damn it, I was just about to sideline the Bishop of Rome, team up with the other 4 bishops, rally the Christians, and solidify my imperial authority, and now those exact regions have been conquered. Meanwhile, back in the territory of the former Western Roman Empire, which had been overrun by Germanic tribes, a very powerful kingdom eventually rises. The Frankish Kingdom, a strong kingdom established by the Germanic peoples. But there was one problem. What was it? The kingdom was established, but the people wouldn't obey the king. Why? Because the people living there were high on their own supply of, "We are the descendants of the Roman Empire" pride. Their attitude was, "Who are you, barbarian scumbags? You rootless Germans come down here, set up some weird country called the Frankish Kingdom, and you dare try to rule us? We're the heirs of Rome. Who the hell are you?" Even in this chaos, the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, had managed to hang on even after the Western Empire collapsed. And in this exact situation, someone caught the eye of the Frankish king. Who was it? The Bishop of Rome, who had been left high and dry. The king of the Franks saw an opportunity. He saw the Bishop of Rome, who had been left completely out in the cold. As I said, the people of the Frankish Kingdom didn't really obey their king. The local lords and landowners could stage a coup at any moment. The country's political situation was a total mess. And in this mess, the Frankish king spotted the Pope. He must have thought, if I get friendly with the Pope, I think I could get something good out of this. Here's what that means. There were a lot of Christians within the Frankish kingdom. These former citizens of the Roman Empire wouldn't listen to the king. They listened more to the Bishop of Rome for religious reasons. The king's calculation was, these Christians won't listen to me. If I want to rule them effectively and make them obey, I need to put on a show with the Pope. If I stage a political spectacle with the Pope, these people who ignore me will finally listen. So what does he do? He arranges a coronation. This creates the iconic image of the Pope crowning Charlemagne. Before this coronation, the Christians were thinking, the Frankish kingdom? Just a bunch of rootless Germanic barbarians. But then they see this and go, wait, His Holiness the Pope is crowning him? He's a king endorsed by the Pope? Their whole tune changes. I see now. He's a king acknowledged by our Pope. I thought he was just some illegitimate ruler, but he must be worthy if the leader of us Catholics, the Pope himself, is placing a crown on his head. This is how Charlemagne, the king of the Franks, and the Pope joined forces. And the second this happened, the Pope seized the opportunity to declare, I am the top dog of all Christianity. He made another play for it. I am once again the supreme archbishop of the entire Catholic Christian world. His confidence was back. Why? By crowning the emperor, he gained immense influence and powerful backing. He planned to sideline the Archbishop of Constantinople and try again to become the most powerful archbishop, the undisputed champion of global Catholic Christianity. The Western Roman Empire was gone, but by teaming up with the Franks, these Germanic foreigners who happened to be really tough and formidable fighters, he got his swagger back. And what came out of this? The Holy Roman Empire. Starting with the coronation of the Frankish king, Charlemagne, the Pope and the Emperor came up with a name together. The legitimate heir to the Roman Empire, sacred and chosen by God. That is the Holy Roman Empire. You can just imagine the reaction. Whoa, with a name like that, wait, so we Germans are actually citizens of the Holy Roman Empire? This kind of thinking gives you a lethal dose of national pride, a cocktail of religious fervor and patriotism that makes your chest swell. They chose this name specifically for that political purpose. With a name like the Holy Roman Empire, you can bet the Pope's influence was massive. It started to become incredibly powerful. The Pope could say one word and people would be like, wow, God's one true representative, our Holy Father, thank you. If he just walked by, people would be bowing, oh, your holiness. But just as the Pope's influence was on the rise, it fizzled out again. Why? Because the Frankish king's damn sons started fighting amongst themselves again. After a few generations after Charlemagne died, the Frankish kingdom split into 3 parts: West, Middle, and East Francia. And what does splitting into 3 mean? It means now there are 3 kings. They're all trying to grab territory from each other, purging rivals, and if they even suspect someone might stage a coup, they drag them off and crush them. They started purging people left and right to consolidate their own power. Their relationship with the Pope and coronations weren't the priority anymore. They were too busy carving up the land and eliminating any potential threats to their power.
But later, Middle and East Francia merge. They combine to become the Kingdom of Germany. So now it's split between West Francia and the German Kingdom. And it's here that the King of Germany, like Charlemagne before him, goes to have a coffee with the Pope. King Otto I of Germany gets a coronation and the Holy Roman Empire is rebooted. Why did the German kingdom adopt the Holy Roman Empire title again? It's like this. Even today, if a politician is known to be friendly with the pastor of a huge megachurch, members of that church are more likely to lean towards that politician. Now, imagine the emperor is tight with the Pope. What do you think the common people who revere the Pope as His Holiness are going to do? Through this process, the power of the Holy Roman Empire grew stronger. It got the Pope's coronation. It pacified public opinion, and coups became less frequent. This is how the Holy Roman Empire became a state where the kings, that is, the emperors, power and authority became immense. But it wasn't just the Holy Roman Empire anymore. Why? Because Christianity was spreading. Catholicism started spreading all across Europe. So you have countries like Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany. They all have their own kings, but they also now have large Christian populations. So what happens? They all have to start bowing their heads to the Pope. Why? They're basically going to the Pope and saying, "Your Holiness, please recognize me as king too. Put out a good word for me." You get the picture. Why? Because their subjects were overwhelmingly Christian. So countless European kings started asking the Pope to please tell everyone you're okay with me being king. Word got around, and soon kings from all over were like, "Pope, my man, you're the best. Let's be friends. You have my respect." And they'd hang a picture of themselves with the Pope in their palace. That, right there, is the history of medieval Europe. Why are the Pope and Catholicism such an indispensable part of understanding this era? Because the very system of European states was built with the Pope. The people were all Christians, they all looked up to the Pope, and even the kings had to bow their heads to him without question. For example, say the King of Belgium said something like, "That Pope guy is kind of a jerk." The Pope could immediately tell the people of Belgium, "Saints of Belgium, your king is a heretic, a spawn of Satan. Go and kill him now, and God will absolve you." And just like that, the King of Belgium would be totally screwed. That's why every king in Europe had no choice but to bow to the Pope. And that's why for medieval Europe, you absolutely have to understand the history of the Pope, of Christianity, of Catholicism. So, what's the problem now? There's a country we've forgotten about, isn't there? Where? The Eastern Roman Empire. We need to talk about the Byzantine Empire, which was barely hanging on while getting hammered by the Islamic states of the Middle East. The Eastern Roman Empire was also a Christian nation. But what did I tell you at the beginning? I told you to erase everything you thought you knew about what Catholic means. At this point, the name for Christianity was Catholic, remember? All of Christianity was being called Catholic. But while the Pope in Rome was busy with coronations and establishing the Holy Roman Empire, he was solidifying his claim. The top dog of all Christianity in the world, i.e. Catholicism, is me. I even have my own lands, you punks. Who is the Supreme Archbishop of all global Catholic Christianity? It's the Bishop of Rome, the Pope. With that, the game was already over in all of Europe. While the Eastern Roman Empire was busy fighting for its life, in Western and Central Europe, the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, had become the real deal, the undisputed head, the top dog of Catholic Christianity. The whole atmosphere had shifted. It was like Everyone except us over here. The vibe in Europe was now set in stone. Oh, the supreme leader of our religion, Christianity, also known as Catholicism, is the one and only Pope in Rome. The Eastern Empire was completely screwed. So what about that ecumenical patriarch of the Catholic world that the Byzantine Empire had unilaterally created back in Constantinople? To the rest of Europe, that was someone else's story. They were basically saying, we don't care what you call your guy over there. For us, the Pope in Rome is the top dog. That's where things stood. The title in Constantinople had become meaningless. And so they started fighting like crazy, for real this time. The Pope in Rome is screaming heretics at Constantinople, and Constantinople is screaming heretics right back. They're going at it. From Constantinople's point of view, it was, I'm supposed to be the ecumenical patriarch of the Catholic religion, and that guy in Rome stole my title. But the tide had already turned, and it was an insurmountable difference. The number of people in the West who believed the Pope of Rome was the head of Catholicism was overwhelming. The population difference was off the charts. The consensus had completely shifted to, of course, Catholicism is our religion, and the head of Catholicism is the Pope in Rome. They basically lost the brand name Catholic. In Europe, the supreme leader of the religion using the name Catholic had by default become the Bishop of Rome, the Pope. So what were they supposed to do? Since it became difficult to use the name Catholic, they started using a new name to signify we are the true, correct church, the Orthodox Church.